It is now time for question period. I recognize the member for Niagara Centre.
Thank you, Speaker. Good morning. My question is through to the Premier. The Financial Accountability Office projected this province will lose 9,000 frontline healthcare positions by next year. We are losing nurses faster than we are training or hiring them. Frontline workers at Niagara hospitals have been sounding the alarm for months. They know that in Niagara and across this province, short staffing, burnout, and unsafe workloads are putting patient care at risk. And we continue to see reductions in staffing due to hospital deficits created by this government. Through you, Speaker, why is this government forcing hospitals to fire frontline workers?
Minister of Health.
Thank you, Speaker. Of course, we have increased hospital funding by over 50% in the province of Ontario since Premier Ford and our government came into office. That is a commitment to our hospital partners, and it is also an assurance that we will work directly with them to a path to balance in the next 3 years. You know, the member opposite talks about reductions. The truth is that we have seen a 15% increase in the number of nurses hired in our publicly funded system across Ontario. That, coupled with 100,000 nurses that have been registered since 2018, 30,000 nursing students who are currently in our colleges and universities who want to be part of our publicly funded system, and again a 15% increase in the number of nurses who are practicing in Ontario today.
The member for Hamilton West, Ancaster Dundas.
Ontario's healthcare system is under enormous strain. We know that. Patients waiting hours in emergency rooms, surgery delayed, and nurses working back-to-back double shifts just to keep up. Meanwhile, this government is firing nurses. 700 nurses and frontline healthcare jobs have been cut across Ontario since January 2025. St. Joe's Healthcare in Hamilton is cutting 62 jobs. And because of your drastic provincial cuts, they were forced to cancel a planned expansion of a neonatal intensive care unit. Newborns, Minister. Families are being denied the critical care that they need. Why is this Premier cutting the nurses and that our healthcare system desperately needs?
Minister of Health.
Do you remember that line, Speaker, don't let the facts get in the way of a good argument? Yeah. I just said we've had a 15% increase in the number of nurses who are working in the province of Ontario. We are making investments, whether it is in our long-term care homes, whether it is in home and community care, whether it is in palliative care, our hospital system, and of course our multidisciplinary primary care team, where we have seen a $3.4 billion investment to make sure that family physicians, nurse practitioners, nurses, dietitians, mental health workers work together in a multidisciplinary team to make sure that we provide those services. Are we asking our hospital partners to make sure that they ensure the money that we are funding, again, a 50% increase since Premier Ford came into office? Are we making sure that that is frontline care 100%? And we are committed to do that work with our hospital partners. Thank you.
I recognize the member for Ottawa Centre.
Speaker, it was recently reported that Briere Health in Ottawa is eliminating 55 frontline positions, including 46 personal support workers and 9 nurses. The Canadian Union of Public Employees says these layoffs are the result of major funding cuts by the provincial government. At a time when hospitals are already understaffed and patients are facing longer wait times and overcrowding, this government is allowing frontline care to be reduced across Ontario. Speaker, my question is to the Premier. When will you stop making things worse for patients by allowing hundreds of frontline healthcare positions to be eliminated?
The Health Minister.
Only the NDP could do a math where 50% increase to our hospital partners equates to a cut. We have ensured that hospitals must prepare a path to balance. Yes, a 3-year path to balance where we are asking them to look at those investments and ensure that they are actually going to frontline patient-facing care. Are they eliminating some vacant positions? Absolutely. Are they ensuring that the money that we are flowing to them is going to frontline patient-facing bedside care? Yes, we are. Why? Because not only are we a partner to our hospitals and ensuring that they have the funds they need, but we are also asking them to make sure that that money is spent very specifically on frontline patient care. Thank you.
Recognize the member for Spadina-Fort York.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. So Shakira is a student with a disability, and she wants to attend college, but this government's ODSP rates are so low, $600 a month for housing, that they left 35,000 Ontarians with disabilities homeless. And now this government is cutting OSAP. And she wants to fulfill her potential and contribute to Ontario, but she sees people with disabilities becoming homeless, and some are even taking medical assistance and dying. So her question is, why is this government cutting OSAP and leaving the ODSP rate so low that people with disabilities cannot attend college, but instead are becoming homeless, and some are even taking MAID?
I recognize the Minister of Community and Colleges and Universities.
Thank you, Speaker. For the 50th time this week, we are not cutting OSAP. I don't know how I can make that any clearer. OSAP funds will continue to be available. Yes, we have changed the grant-to-loan ratio to ensure it is sustainable, because the Auditor General made it very, very clear in 2017 a desperate Liberal government was trying to hang on to power, and they changed the grant-to-loan ratio. And it was clearly articulated by the Auditor General, and me and the Premier have been very clear since day one, this is to ensure sustainability of the OSAP program.
After the member for Spadina-Fort York.
What used to be 85% grants is going to be 25% grants, and it means that a lot of low and middle income students are going to be priced out of the opportunity to attend college or university.
That's right.
T is a first-year York University student, and she's one of 4 children of a sole support mother, and she is facing an additional and every other undergraduate student who relies on OSAP is facing an average $3,400 additional debt because of the OSAP changes that this government is making.
Shameful.
And she's wondering why this government is making our college and university system an opportunity only for the wealthy, and they're pricing out low and middle income students.
Back to the Minister for response.
The opposition needs to stop fear-mongering parents and students, and they need to clarify that there's a significant amount of supports available to our students, whether it's bursaries or grants through the universities that amount to $1.8 billion every single year, or our colleges that have their own bursaries and grants as well in the hundreds of millions of dollars. We have a student access guarantee, which is a tuition set-aside, Speaker, which we're going to enhance that student access guarantee to ensure that our low and medium income students will always have the supports available to them. I wish the member opposite would actually clarify that when students are coming to him concerned, because they're only giving half of the facts, Speaker.
The member from Spadina-Fort York.
Clarify, I have been to walkouts, high school students walking out of class in Oshawa and in Keswick and other cities across this province, because they know that what this government is doing is going to hurt their opportunities for the future.
And our
they know that you are downloading tens of thousands of dollars of debt onto low and middle income students, and they are disgusted with your actions, and your pompous replies are not helping.
That's right.
So
Here,
Kaya
here.
is a single parent with 2 children who's completing her degree. Her child at her daughter's school, 4 teachers have been cut in 1 year. Wow. Educators are overwhelmed. Classrooms are underfunded. Yep. And recently, at every level, education, elementary, secondary, college, university is being cut. Yep. So she's asking, why is this government so out of touch with the reality of what's happening in the schools, and why are you undermining our education systems in Ontario?
Great question.
Minister of Colleges and Universities.
Speaker, I was jumping out of my chair there when he called me pompous. I think that member needs to look in the mirror. I'll take that as a grain of salt. That party is unbelievably out of touch with the needs of people of Ontario. Speaker, when we cut and froze tuition in 2018, we are saving the average of $1,800 per university student since then and $450 per college student. Speaker, but I hope that member, when he's meeting with the students, will clarify his own leader's comments that we would like to get to a place where other provinces are at. We did get to a place where other provinces are at. We're exactly in the middle of the pack when it comes to the grant-to-loan ratios. Your own leader stated that in the media. Hopefully you've clarified that, but you know what? I won't give them that much credit, Speaker. They don't clarify anything with the students. They are fear-mongering and rage-baiting the students right now, Speaker.
Order. Question. I recognize the member for Orleans.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. My question is for the Premier. Madam Speaker, it's been 8 years. 8 long, hard years. And boys are falling behind in school. Young men are struggling with mental health. And too many are unable to find a meaningful path to work. That didn't happen overnight, Madam Speaker. It happened under this Conservative government's watch. Now, the federal Liberal government has announced a national strategy for young boys and men. Later today, this government will show Ontarians its priorities. So, Madam Speaker, will the Conservative government finally step up with real investment to address these challenges for young men, or will they keep making life harder and harder for this generation of young men? Thank you.
Recognize the member for Peterborough-Kawartha.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. As the member opposite knows, we can't divulge what's in the budget before the budget is released. However, I have some things I can tell the member opposite. Oh, please do. In the budget, there will be some graphics, there will be some charts, some words, and a lot of numbers. And I suggest he take the time this afternoon and read the budget through, because he'll be very impressed with the continued work that we're doing in Ontario to ensure that people have a better life here. The investments that we've made in employment opportunities, more than 1 million people are employed today than what was employed in 2018. There's been an increase in our GDP from $717 billion to just over $1.1 trillion. Wow. And we've done that without raising a single tax, because we recognize that investing in our economy is good for all of Ontario. Right. I'll have more to say in supplementary to his questions.
Recognize the member for Orleans.
Well, Madam Speaker, nothing designed for the issues relating to boys and young men. Boys are struggling in school. Young men are questioning whether college or university is even within their reach. And this Conservative government has made it worse by gutting OSAP and increasing the financial barriers to college or university, piling on more and more debt. After 8 years, when young men are already struggling and falling behind, why is this Premier making it harder for them to pursue a diploma, get a degree, and start a job that will build a prosperous career?
I recognize the Minister of Economic Development, Job Creation and Trade.
Speaker, we've seen businesses create 1 million new jobs since we took office. In the face of President Trump's tariffs, we're doing everything to protect and build on that progress. We're securing job-creating investments in sectors that are poised for growth, like AI and life sciences. We're investing millions in the Ontario Youth Apprentice Program, which now supports more than 28,000 students. And we're putting more money in skills, STEM opportunities, helping young people across Ontario build the skills that they need to secure those good-paying jobs that we are bringing here for years to come. Speaker, unlike the NDP and the Liberals, we're focused on practical pathways that help young people find real jobs and build a career.
Back to the member for Orleans.
Madam Speaker, I would encourage the minister and their entire government to go home and talk to boy moms about the struggles boys and young men are facing in their Ontario, Madam Speaker. Young men are finding it harder and harder to get ahead, harder to pursue post-secondary education, harder to find opportunity, harder to build a future. And just when it couldn't get any harder, Madam Speaker, this Conservative government is pushing gambling ads directly at them all day long, on the bus, watching sports, beamed directly to their phone 24 hours a day. Wall-to-wall ads, easy access, designed to hook, designed to be addictive. That's not support. That's not opportunity. It's just another way to lose, Madam Speaker. So after 8 long years, why has this Conservative government made it easier for young men to place a bet than it is for them to build a future?
Minister of Job Creation.
Speaker, as we have been traveling the globe, bringing new businesses here, businesses from around the world, businesses like Marvell from the States, who invested $238 million, Ferrero, who have invested $445 million, Element 5 from Austria, that it's invested $107 million, and the list is long and healthy. We've created opportunities for these graduates. Not only do we currently graduate 86,000 STEM grads, that's the speech that we give when we're around the world bringing these companies here, but we're adding 20,500 more spaces for STEM grads. Our countries or our companies around the world that are listening to us, they understand because we have that talent here in Ontario. That's the jewel. That's what they love about Ontario, and that's why in record numbers they're continuing to come here. Company after company after company, adding 1 million new jobs in Ontario.
Question. I recognize the leader of the third party.
Thank you very much, Speaker. My question is for the Minister of Education. And those of us who were at the teachers' breakfast yesterday are still talking about the minister's speech. We were all shocked. The remarks that he made to the people who represent 160,000 teachers, the people who help and support our kids learn every day in this province. And the one thing that really stood out is the minister said 95% of teachers are good and the rest are bad. That shocks me. So I guess the question I have for the minister is just exactly where did he pull that number out of? And if he can't tell us that here, will he apologize to teachers?
Minister of Education.
Madam Speaker, I was listening to this narrative yesterday about how tough this speech was and how it would really be hurtful to me and my government. So I thought to myself, let me go to the website of the Leader of the Opposition because his whole party was there and they were videotaping the speech. So certainly they were using copies of the videotaped speech to take me down. But I couldn't find it. He didn't post the speech. So then I thought, okay, let me go to ETFO, who said it was a very tough speech. Let me go to the ETFO website. Could I find my speech? No. So then I went to the OSSTF. Could I find my speech there, videotaped? They were all videotaping. Did I find it? No. I challenged the member opposite. Yesterday I gave him the opportunity to read my letter in the House. He refused to do it. I have brought 15 copies so that the members opposite can actually post it on their websites. I challenge the member opposite. Post my speech on your website, post my letter on your website, and let teachers and parents decide.
Leader of the third party.
Highly inflated sense of self-importance. I wasn't videotaping the space, and we weren't. So, Speaker, after 8 years, this government is tired and out of touch, and they've made a mess in our schools. Class sizes are too big, special education's been starved, and there's a mental health crisis my colleague just described that's not being addressed. And now the Minister of Education is saying he wants to fire thousands and thousands of teachers. And we don't have enough already. That's not the point, though. The minister is trying to distract from the things that are wrong in our schools after 8 years of a tired, out of touch, out of gas, out of ideas government. And he's treating education, our kids' schools, like his personal political playground. So, Minister, I know what you said. You need to apologize. Will you do it?
Minister of Education.
I don't know who this was that was videotaping it, but I thought it was you. But I will say this, Madam Speaker, if the speech was that bad, if it would harm me and my government, you would think the member opposite would want to post it. I asked the member opposite. I challenge him. I challenge the 15 members of his caucus. I challenge the 100 teachers who were there yesterday. I challenge
Leader of the third
OSSPM.
party will come to
I
order.
challenge ETFO. I challenge OECTA. If you thought the speech was so bad, all of you
Leader
were
of the third party will
videotaping
come
it.
to order. The member
Put
for
the
Don Valley
speech
North will come to
online
order.
and let teachers make that decision. Let parents make that decision. Let students make that decision. But I tell you what, he's a paper tiger, he has no guts, and he'll never, ever do it.
Recognize the member for Ottawa-Vanion.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Yesterday, teachers' unions were at Queen's Park, and the Minister knows, the Minister of Education, because he did show up at the breakfast after all. And he didn't meet with them, however, because if he did, he would have heard about their concerns and about their perspective on the effect his policies are having on classroom and on educators across the province. Now, I take it personally that the minister didn't even mention the IFO in his initial response, and I want to point out that Francophone education has unique realities that require particular attention. And yet, since his appointment, the minister has yet not met with the Association des enseignants et enseignantes franco-ontariens, and that's despite repeated requests. They're wanting to meet. So I ask the minister, will you extend them the basic courtesy of a meeting and take the time to hear directly from Francophone educators about the challenges they face and the support that they are expecting from you?
Bravo.
Minister of Education.
Of course, they meet with me and my officials on a bi-weekly basis. But here's what I said, colleagues. Let me quote from my speech. This was actually from a reporter who was there and videotaped it as well. I will not apologize, quote, for trying to create a system that is squarely focused on student achievement by providing teachers the resources they need to succeed, Calandra said at a breakfast. I ask you to come with me, join with me in building a system. Don't be a stumbling block on the path. We will get this done.
Order.
He added that while 95% of students are hard work.
I apologize to the minister. Order. I don't think anybody wants to be warned today. I'm assuming that is the direction we are heading, but I will warn people. So if you want to be here later this afternoon, behave. I apologize back to the Minister of Education.
That while 95% of teachers are hardworking people, 5% or less are focused on something other than students. Madam Speaker, I asked the member opposite, which part of that does he not agree with? And post it online. If you have so much courage of your convictions, I dare you. Put the letter online.
Question. I recognize the member for Oshawa.
Thank you, Speaker. This Premier's attack on OSAP has awakened a giant.
Order.
In 12 years, I have never before seen high school students organize themselves into province-wide, cross-community walkouts. Students know that education is a right, and what this Premier and Minister are doing is so wrong. I listen to high school kids who have picked post-secondary programs for their future that now they don't think they can pursue. I've met with student leadership at Oshawa's post-secondary institutions trying to deal with panicked students whose goals are unraveling in real time because they can't afford to continue their studies. I've heard from hundreds of parents and students through my OSAP Impact Survey and hosted a town hall where the people were overcome with emotion as they shared how impossible it is to build a future in Fords, Ontario. The minister responsible for this mess stood here this week and said he went to college because, quote, going to university would have put debt on my career, end quote.
Question.
So, Minister, if student debt wasn't good for you, then why is debt what you want for today's young people?
Minister of Colleges and Universities.
You know, I don't expect the opposition to ever listen to anything I'm saying, Speaker, but when I was graduating high school, I took a careful look at my goals and how I could best plan my higher education to achieve those goals, Speaker. I knew I wanted to own a small business, as I mentioned earlier this week, in my community. So I weighed my options. I got into all the universities I wanted. I got into the colleges I wanted, but I understood if I wanted to be a small business owner, college was the best path for me. So I made the sacrifice and stayed at home with my parents because I understood that was more financially sustainable for me to be able to open a small business, Speaker. Our students need to do the same. They need to look at their future and make a fiscally responsible decision that will enable them to achieve their goals, Speaker. Post-secondary education is an investment that students make into themselves and their future, and our government is proud to support that investment, Speaker.
Recognize the member for Windsor West.
Okay, back to the Premier. Windsor's youth unemployment has reached alarming levels, among the highest in Ontario, leaving many young people struggling to find stable work and build a future in our community. Yet this Conservative government is making cuts to OSAP at a time when students are already facing rising costs and limited opportunities. Students and parents have been very clear. OSAP cuts will force many into a lifetime of debt. Students from lower and middle-income families will face even more barriers to receiving post-secondary education, further reducing their prospects of securing employment. Windsor students and families are already struggling to simply get by. So my question is, will the Premier explain to my constituents why he is so hell-bent on making their lives even harder?
Minister of Colleges and Universities.
There are no cuts to OSAP, Speaker. I don't know how I can say that any other way. The funds will be there for OSAP. Yes, we did change the grant-to-loan ratio because the previous grant-to-loan ratio was unsustainable. I've said it 10 times in this House this week. The Auditor General clearly articulated that grant-to-loan ratio was not sustainable, both for Ontario and the taxpayers we serve, Speaker. But ultimately, they'll never give them the full facts, Speaker. OSAP will continue to be there. We are 25% grants, right in line with both governments in Manitoba and BC, both NDP governments. Did you tell that to the students you spoke to? I know she didn't, Speaker. Unfortunately, they're just giving them half the information, and they're trying to get them even more upset because, you know what? They're not doing well in the polls, Speaker. I don't know if they've checked. Their leader's not even here. But ultimately, Speaker, I withdraw. You know, ultimately, the funds are available for our students, and we're ensuring that OSAP will continue to be sustainable moving forward for the next.
Leader of the third party.
Thank you very much, Speaker. And my question's for the Minister of Labour. So, Speaker, life is hard right now for everyone, and it's always been hard for the people who care for the people that we care for most. And I'm talking about people who work in residential care, in retirement homes and group homes across this province. Now, there's a group of these workers who don't have the coverage of WSIB simply because of who their employer is. And I know, Minister, that you and I have spoken on this several times before, and I appreciated your time and attention to it. But here's the reality is I've introduced the bill 6 times over a period of time, so I've talked to a number of ministers, and I have a debate spot in 2 weeks. 3 weeks. And I'm prepared to debate the bill again for a third time. So I'd either like to know whether the government will support the bill or whether you're going to cover these workers.
Recognize the Minister of Labour.
Speaker, I appreciate the question from the member opposite. He's right. We have spoken about this. And recently I had the opportunity to sit down with these workers with SEIU in a round table just 2 weeks ago. I want to especially acknowledge Sandy Green, who spoke about her challenges and about lived experience, and I appreciate that. And, you know, the member and I spoke, and I said we've got to get it right and we've got to sit down. And I hope more, as I've always said, than lip service. It's about action, about sitting down, having those conversations, and we did that. Again, the track record of this government through over 7 Working for Workers pieces of legislation is to reflect those stories in meaningful legislation. So to the member opposite, yes, we intend to take action, and stay tuned.
Back to the Leader of the third party.
Well, I want to thank the Minister for that answer. That's very, very encouraging. And I do, we both know Sandy Green. I've heard her story, and she's been an advocate for this. And so I really appreciate that answer because, you know, these folks, a lot of them work 2 and 3 jobs, and they're at risk. You know, we hope everybody comes home safe from work, but, you know, if you only get covered, if you're not covered with WSIB, you're only covered for one of those jobs. And I think they should be encouraged by that answer, and I'm hopeful that we see it come forward soon, before my ballot tape. That would be great. Thank you, Speaker.
Back to the Minister of Labour.
Thank you, Speaker. Speaker, again, having the opportunity to sit down, I appreciate the advocacy for that, members, but it predates even more than 8 years, Speaker. For over 20 years, these workers like Sandy Green have said that they've fallen outside of that coverage. And you know what really struck me, and I know that members heard the same story, is the Wild West that they work in. They need that coverage. They need that support. Previous iterations had moved some employers into a different schedule that were already covered. So I think these are conversations we can sit down on to make sure we get it right for those workers, Speaker. Every worker, regardless of what you do, but especially home care workers. We've all likely had someone in our family or a friend who's been touched by their hands and the incredible work that they do. So to those workers, we see you, we hear you, and you can count on your government to continue to take action in the very near future on it, Speaker. And again, I appreciate that question. Residential care workers do deserve better, and they're going to get it from Premier Ford and this government.
I recognize the member from Markham Thornhill.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Speaker, my question to the Minister of Municipal Affairs and Housing. While many Ontarians spend the winter break with their families, they need to build more homes. Don't slow down. For years, excessive municipal red tape and past Liberal government mismanagement created barriers that drove up costs, delayed projects, and made it harder for families to find the place to call home. Speaker, our government is changing that. Through Bill 17, we are modernizing the outdated process and removing the barriers that have stood in the way of building more homes faster. Speaker, can the Minister share our government continue advancing the work over the winter months to ensure these reforms are delivering the results for Ontario? Thank you, Madam Speaker.
I recognize the Minister of Municipal Affairs and Housing.
Well, thank you, Speaker, and thank you for the question. I think everybody knows affordability is key when it comes to all types of housing. And as I've said for many times, it takes too long and it costs too much to get housing built in this province. So over the winter, we've been looking at implementing portions of Bill 17 and Bill 60, and one of the things that we came across, as we've talked about, are the duplication of studies and engineering stamps in municipalities. We're changing that. And why are we changing it? Because it takes too long to get permits for houses to be built. So here's what we've done. We've said engineers, if you're a qualified engineer, one stamp. It counts, end of subject. No duplication, no time wasters, no pride of authorship. It's about affordability. And you want to know what else, Speaker? We removed the full portion of the HST on new home builds, all new home builds. And at the end of the day, we're creating affordability. It takes so long and it costs too much to get a home built. We're changing that.
Back to the member from Markham Thornhill.
Thank you, Speaker. Thank you to the Minister for that great answer and the update. It is encouraging to hear that these changes are already reducing the delays and improving the certainty for builders and the buyers. However, we know more work is needed to be fully modernize the system and make it as efficient and cost-effective as possible. That's why our government is taking decisive action to cut red tape and help more families to achieve home ownership. Speaker, can the Minister outline how our government will build on these reforms to further streamline approvals and save families time and money when they are purchasing their home? Thank you, Madam Speaker.
I recognize the member for Thornhill.
So much, Madam Speaker. And the member is right. We are going to have a busy legislative session where we continue to advance our agenda to protect Ontario, and our government is not stopping. We're going to continue to build on those strong foundationals laid through the previous legislation, including the Protect Ontario by Building Faster and Smarter Act and the Fighting Delays and the Building Faster Act. We are remaining focused on this, and we had a great announcement yesterday and through the budget with a full HST rebate for all home buyers, which is fantastic. But we are going to continue to identify additional opportunities to standardize the requirements and ensure that approvals and efficiencies across all stages of the process, including planning and design, and including by working with the engineers. It's very important to work with our friends who know the system the best. Every step we take is aimed at affordability and reducing delays and getting more homes built faster so we can protect the dream of home ownership in Ontario.
The member for Toronto Centre.
Thank you, Speaker. To the Premier, this government is failing to deliver a justice system that works for Ontarians. A recent Superior Court ruling proved this by highlighting this government's failure to uphold basic human rights in our province. The court found that the Ontario Human Rights Tribunal is systematically misapplying the law by failing to properly evaluate allegations of disability discrimination. Since 2021, 97% of those cases, or thousands of Ontarians, have been wrongly denied their right to a fair hearing. Will this Premier make reparations for the damage done to Ontarians denied justice by his mismanagement of the tribunal system?
I recognize the member for Hamilton Mountain.
Thank you. Thank you, Speaker, and I thank the question. I thank the member of the opposition for the question, for giving us the opportunity to talk about the work that our ministry has done for Tribunals Ontario in ensuring that we are delivering consistent justice for Ontarians across this province. We continue to ensure that it operates independently, that people receive timely and fair hearings to resolve all disputes, regardless of creed. In March 2023, we continue to invest more than $12 billion in Tribunals Ontario to hire additional support staff and improve service delivery, and it's a commitment we will continue to do and deliver for all of those in Ontario.
Back to the member for Toronto Centre.
Thank you, Speaker. Back to the Premier. It is absolutely embarrassing to have those recycled talking points come back to a question that was as serious as that. This government only knows how to reduce court backlogs by unfairly dismissing cases. They are hell-bent on destroying what's left of our underfunded justice system. While under federal police investigation, our Buckabeer Premier is calling on the feds to let premiers like him to actually handpick Ontario judges. The justice system is collapsing, and instead of fixing it, this Premier shows us how out of touch he is. He's proposing to give away judicial appointments just like he gave away our Greenbelt. Speaker, will this Premier listen to the legal experts that are here in the chamber today and do what is right, or will he continue to mismanage and compromise our justice system?
Member for Hamilton Mountain.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I appreciate the opportunity to be able to speak on this again and again, the great work that our government has continued to do in the justice sphere. We have undertaken extreme measures to streamline and modernize our appointment processes to ensure access to justice. In fact, we've already made important changes to the Courts of Justice Act to streamline and modernize a quicker process. You know what that means? It means moving to a pool-based recommendation process that brings in more qualified candidates that Ontarians want to see and helps appoint judges faster. This is exactly what the people of Ontario voted for. By 2027-2028, our government will have invested more than $500 million to help the courts address backlogs and manage a growing number of complex cases. This is what we will continue to deliver for the people of Ontario.
Recognize the member for Kingston and the Islands.
Madam Speaker, the Kingston Hospital serves the ridings of Bay of Quinte, Hastings, Lennox and Addington, Lanark, Frontenac, Kingston, Leeds, Granville, Thousand Islands and Rideau Lakes, Kingston and the Islands. 4 weeks ago was the highest ever inpatient admissions, 630 patients, 60 more than the 570 beds. This, as the hospital also cares for over 800 patients who stay out in the community. It's bursting at the seams. In the hallways, you walk around labeled beds, formally labeled, so the computer system can track hallway patients. As our population rises, this government should have seen this crisis coming since they promised to end hallway medicine 8 years ago. Ontario's oldest public hospital, a National Historic Site with most of its buildings intact, is a unique and urgent case. Will this government prioritize a real need and fund a replacement?
Recognize the Minister of Health.
Thank you, Speaker. So, of course, as part of our 50% increase in hospital-based funding, Kingston Health Sciences actually received $150 million since Premier Ford's and our government came into power. We're also, of course, providing operational funding for a new MRI facility machine. And what that means is that we've actually decreased the wait times for MRIs across Ontario, but of course in the Kingston region. The member opposite will also remember, I hope, that the Kingston area was actually one of the first communities that had an expanded interprofessional primary care multidisciplinary team. What does that mean? That means that 3,575 patients in the Kingston community are now attached to a primary care multidisciplinary team, a team that can have a family physician, a nurse practitioner, an RN, a mental health worker. Those are the investments our government is making and will continue to make across Ontario. Thank you.
Back to the member for Kingston and the Islands.
Madam Speaker, this is not some pet project for downtown Toronto. This is a real infrastructure need, real capital need. This should be a government priority. 3 weeks ago, the hospital tied the dire conditions and record patient volume directly to the urgent need for a new facility. Everyone knows that it is not possible anymore to rebuild and restore this 188-year-old hospital, Ontario's oldest. Everybody knows that's hindering care for their loved ones. A site has been chosen for the new hospital, and they've designed a phased plan that won't break a budget or overwhelm management while steadily improving the care for patients. Today is budget day, so I'll ask the Finance Minister, do you think it costs less to build a new hospital now or years from now?
Minister of Health.
Speaker, I think it's important to remind everyone in this House, $60 billion in hospital capital infrastructure, 50 different projects across Ontario where we are investing in new hospitals, in renovated hospitals, in expanded hospitals. We know that in order to keep Ontario's world-class healthcare system operational, we will make those investments, and we are, with a $60 billion investment. As we move forward in working with all of our hospital partners, we are absolutely making sure that the capital asks that they are interested in proceeding with, we will assess, we will review, but I think it's really important to understand we already have 50 of them in the pipeline worth the equivalent of $60 billion.
I recognize the member for Haliburton, Kawartha Lakes Brock.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. My question is for the Minister of Agriculture, Food and Agribusiness. Speaker, farmers are the backbone of our province. They drive our economy, they support our communities, and provide families across Ontario with nutritious food. I see that every day in Haliburton, Kawartha Lakes Brock, and I thank them for that. But with the ongoing tariff and trade uncertainty, farmers are concerned about their livelihoods and the future of their operations. They want stability, clear guidance, and strong leadership. They want our government to continue standing with them, taking decisive action to protect their businesses, open new markets, and ensure that Ontario's agricultural sector can thrive for years to come. Through you, Madam Speaker, to the Minister, what is our government doing to support farmers and strengthen our agri-food sector?
Recognize the Minister of Agriculture.
Speaker, and I want to thank the honourable member for that question. Speaker, let me make one thing clear. Our government will never back down supporting our farmers and protecting our food supply. Over the past year, I've had the honour of speaking to farmers on their farms, at their kitchen tables, in barns, in fields, and our production facilities to understand what they need to navigate this time of uncertainty. And we're taking action. We listened, and we're taking action. Speaker, we've increased the risk management program $100 million to $250 million to support our farmers. We're helping producers expand new markets beyond the U.S. to stay competitive on the global stage. And Speaker, last year we were elected with an historic third mandate to protect Ontario, and we'll continue to do that by empowering farmers and supporting our food producers. Thank you.
Back to the member for Haliburton, Kawartha Lakes Brock.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, and thanks to the Minister for that strong response and update, and for visiting farmers in Haliburton, Kawartha Lakes Brock. It's encouraging to see that we are not just reacting to these uncertain times, but also providing the industry with the tools and support needed to pursue new opportunities. Speaker, farmers and agri-food businesses across Ontario are looking for the stability as they navigate the impacts of tariffs. Expanding into new markets will help reduce reliance on the U.S. Ontario producers know there is a global demand for their products, and they are ready to deliver them. Through you, Madam Speaker, can the Minister outline what steps our government is taking to support farmers and agri-food businesses in expanding into new markets?
Back to the Minister of Agriculture.
Thank you again, Madam Speaker, and thank you again to my colleague. Madam Speaker, over the winter, I had the privilege of attending the world's largest food trade show in Dubai, attracting 100,000 visitors, buyers and sellers, and 6,500 exhibitors, many from Canada and Ontario. Ontario is the best partner for food business, and Speaker, we have what the world wants. Since 2018, our global exports have increased 65% to $26.8 billion. And we're also seeing momentum in the EU and UK, 10% and 12% respectively. Speaker, I worked alongside in those booths by Ontario beef producers, by grain producers, by our excellent food exporters, and one thing the world wants, and I learned that from over 100,000 people through that booth, they saw the trillium, they saw the maple leaf, and they saw trust, they saw value, and they saw quality. So thank you, Speaker.
I recognize the member for Timiskaming Cochrane.
Thank you, Speaker. My question is for the Minister of Education. So, school bus drivers in West Nipissing who drive for Alouette school bus lines have been, the proud members of USW 2020, have been on the picket lines for over a month. Their demand, they would like to be paid, their wages increased from $18 and change to $24, which is actually the recommended level by the Ministry of Education. My question is to the Minister, why do they have to be on the picket lines to get the Ministry's recommendation?
Minister of Education.
Thank the member for the question. The member knows, of course, that the Crown is not a party to this negotiation. It is a negotiation between the bus service itself and its employees, as represented by the United Steelworkers, as he mentioned. So we are not at the table with them. We do provide significant amount of resources for local consortiums. But I will say this to the member: I am somewhat concerned at how long this has taken. I've expressed that frustration. At the same time, I'm also concerned at the fact that that across the province of Ontario, there's not a lot of people offering this service anymore. We've seen a dramatic reduction in the amount of companies offering bus services across the province of Ontario. It is something that I'm going to look at. It's, of course, a system that was put in place by the previous Liberal government, another mess that was created by them that we're going to look at, try to untangle and fix for the people of the province of Ontario.
Back to the member for Timiskaming Cochrane.
I'd like to thank the Minister for that answer. And I'd also like to inform the House that the same company actually has got ads in the paper for school bus drivers in the adjoining school bus district for $25 an hour. Wow. And I'd also like to inform the House that the Near North School Board, who these drivers drive kids for, has been taken over by the Minister of Education, and he himself is the supervisor of the school board. So he's kind of part of the consortium. So my question again, I really appreciate his answer, but why are these people still on the picket line to attain the recommended rate by the Ministry of Education?
Minister of Education.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Yeah, look, I am the supervisor of that board, and I am very concerned that it's taken this long, frankly, but the member knows that the Ministry of Education nor the school board are at the table negotiating. It is a strike from a private company with its employees. We do not provide that direction. The member would know. At the same time, we'll have the floor. Two quick things, Madam Speaker. A very good friend of mine, Colin McSweeney, has been under the weather. I want to just highlight the fact that he's coming home soon, and I'm glad that he's feeling a lot better. And to the member opposite, we've had, as he will know, a couple of challenging situations in his riding with heavy snow load on a couple of schools. One, I was informed that there was a partial collapse of a roof in one of the schools, but just to let him know that everybody was safe, there were no injuries. The kids are being relocated to other schools as quickly as possible, and I thank the honourable member for his help in making sure that everybody was settled and in class can start up very soon. So thank you, Madam Speaker.
I recognize the member for Ottawa-Vanier.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. My question is for the Associate Minister of Mental Health and Addictions. 2 weeks ago, the Sandy Hill Community Health Centre in my riding was notified that it must close its supervised consumption sites along with all the other ones in the province. Meanwhile, there are no heart hubs in proximity, and the closest one is already at capacity. So I want to ask the Minister, the Associate Minister, what is the government concrete transition plan for the people currently relying on these life-saving services, and will you allow providers in Ottawa East End to implement and receive funding for alternative models that meet the need of our community? Because right now, we're underserved, and with the closure of the site, people are just going to die.
We recognize the Associate Minister of Mental Health and Addictions.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. We are building a system of care. There's providing supports, recovery-based supports for those who are struggling with addictions, Madam Speaker. Unlike Liberals and NDP, we don't believe in providing tools for the most vulnerable in our population to use illicit drugs. Madam Speaker, don't take it from me. Take it from the Ontario Association of Chiefs of Police. I quote, police services and community partners have raised ongoing concerns regarding the impacts surrounding some sites, including public disorder, open drug use, needle debris, public health hazards, trafficking, exploitation, and increased demands on emergency and policing resources. With strong and oversight coordinated partnership, Ontario can advance recovery-focused solutions that support vulnerable individuals while maintaining safe, healthy, and resilient communities across the province, Madam Speaker. That's why we're expanding heart hubs across the province with $550 million in the province.
Back to the member for Ottawa-Vanier.
Madam Speaker, closing supervised consumption sites without a viable and accessible alternative does not eliminate the need. What it does is it shifts the burden onto our communities. And what the minister has described is true. It's going to increase. There will be more public drug use. There will be increased pressure on first responders and longer wait times in already strained emergency rooms. At the Sandy Hill site alone, there was over 250 overdoses that were reversed in the past 6 months. What's going to happen now? So I asked the minister, what specific evidence-based plan does this government have to replace the life-saving work currently being done by the Sandy Hill Community Health Centre and prevent these deaths from occurring in our communities?
Back to the Associate Minister for response.
Madam Speaker, the old model, the drug injection sites, it acts as a revolving door instead of treatment and recovery. People cycle through the system repeatedly, Madam Speaker. The new model, building on a recovery treatment model, Madam Speaker, it will break the cycle of addiction, Madam Speaker. That's why this government, under the leadership of Premier Ford, we have increased the Heart Hub funding 4 times more than the CTS sites, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, Take it from Auditor General, Madam Speaker. Auditor General said the drug injection sites only serve 1,600 people every year, but the Heart Hub, all the 28 are operational right now, estimated will serve 45,000 people every year, Madam Speaker. Heart Hub is all about from a simple cup of coffee, hot shower, warm meal, all the way to meaningful social mental health support services where and when they need it, Madam Speaker. Thank you.
Recognize the member for Algoma Manitoulin.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. And my question is to the Solicitor General. Ontarians rely on their local police officers to protect them and their neighbourhoods. Families in my riding of Algoma Manitoulin, like many in our province, are concerned about reports of crime and violence. They want to feel secure in their communities and know that police have the resources and support they need to do their jobs effectively. Speaker, we know a strong, well-staffed police force is essential to preventing crime and responding quickly when incidents occur. Through you, Madam Speaker, can the Minister tell us, the House, what our steps our government are taking to encourage police recruitment and ensure communities across Ontario are safe?
Recognize the Solicitor General.
Well, thank you very much, Madam Speaker. Since Premier Ford's government came to office in June of 2018, there has not been one day, one moment, where protecting Ontario was not our single highest priority. And to the member's comment, what can a government do to encourage people to come forward and become police officers? Well, I'm happy to report that last week, when the Associate Solicitor General and the member from Kitchener South Hespeler were with me at the Ontario Police College, we saw our latest class of 525 incredible individuals come forward. And I reminded this class that it was our government, led by the Premier, that said, we will contribute, we will pay your basic constable tuition. That's an investment by the province of $36 million last year to watch 2,150 people come forward and to go to the members' riding with the OPP, to go to municipal police services, to go to First Nations police services, and to keep Ontario safe.
Back to the member for Algoma Manitoulin.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, and thank you to the Solicitor General for the important update. Everyone has the right to feel safe in their own home and their community. But, Speaker, people are concerned about stories and violence and crime fueled by illicit drugs. These situations make people feel concerned about safety in their own neighbourhoods. Our dedicated police officers are working tirelessly to keep drugs off the street, prevent crime, and protect families. By supporting and strengthening our police services, we can ensure that our communities are safer and residents feel secure. Speaker, could the Solicitor General share how our government's investments in policing are translating into real, on-the-ground results?
Solicitor General.
Well, thank you, Madam Speaker. I'm happy to remind the House that thanks to the incredible leadership by our Commissioner of the OPP, Thomas Carrique, his command team, and everyone that's part of the OPP, last year alone, in just the last few months, they were able to have a number of announcements to take over $6 million of heroin off our streets, to take over $6 million of street value of fentanyl off our streets. And, Madam Speaker, thanks to the leadership of the Premier, when we came forward with Operation Deterrence 1.0, which provided an incredible amount of money to help strengthen our police services around the borders of Ontario, we're going to be doing it again soon with Operation Deterrence 2.0, so stay tuned. And that will mean more vessels, more technology, more drones for our police services across Ontario to keep them safe.
Recognize the member for Waterloo.
Thank you very much. My question is for the Premier. Waterloo Region's water crisis is a warning that came with a complete pause on new housing permits. It should not have been a surprise, as the former chair of Ontario's Greenbelt Council, David Crombie, has argued, pointing to years of growth pressures outpacing infrastructure planning and funding. AMO agrees. They've cited a $52 billion infrastructure deficit for Ontario. We know that you can't build needed housing without the appropriate infrastructure and investments. Now, Waterloo Region depends 80% on groundwater.
Provincial investment is needed. This is a very serious situation for our region. To the Premier, will your government wake up and adequately fund municipal infrastructure like water to ensure that the housing crisis in Ontario can improve?
Minister of Municipal Affairs and Housing.
Thank you, Speaker, and thank you for that question. Understand the concerns, obviously, about Waterloo. That being said, I'm in constant communication, as is the Minister of Infrastructure, with Chair Redmond. I would point out that we have invested, or will have invested, close to $4 billion in infrastructure and water, housing-enabling water investments. And most importantly, Speaker, this is why we're setting up publicly owned municipal service corporations. $250 billion is needed in this province over the next 10 to 15 years to replace aging infrastructure and new infrastructure. Waterloo is no exception. We are going to be there to support Waterloo, as we always have been. We're listening and we're learning. They've got their challenges. We're going to get over them.
Back to the member for Waterloo.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker, and thank you for that response. However, there is a very serious disconnect that's happening here, and that is that the Ministry of Environment continues to approve huge commercial water-taking permits on the aquifer. Now, yesterday, thankfully, the region of Waterloo unanimously passed a motion to request the province to pause new and expanded water-taking permits in the Mannheim service area as they search for solutions to the water capacity issue. They're basically just asking for a little bit of time so they can figure this out, and also not to continue to deplete the aquifer, where 80% of our water comes from. The motion highlights the need to prevent the risk of interference to existing municipal and private water supplies and to safeguard groundwater resources for both the natural environment and potential future use. This is very serious. Will the province stop approving water-taking permits while we get our house in order in the region of Waterloo?
I recognize the member for Brampton West.
Thank you, Speaker. And I want to begin by saying that our government has been working tirelessly to ensure municipalities have the infrastructure they need to build more homes faster. And over the last 4 or 5 months, Madam Speaker, I have had the opportunity to travel across the province from small towns to growing cities, announcing new funding to help municipalities upgrade critical housing infrastructure like water, wastewater, and roads. And as the Minister of Housing mentioned, Madam Speaker, our government is investing $4 billion in municipal housing infrastructure program. And the good news is that the Premier announced additional $1.6 billion at the IMO conference last year, Madam Speaker. We're not leaving any stone unturned when it comes to building housing and investing in infrastructure, Madam Speaker. We're investing over $230 billion in infrastructure, building housing, building hospitals, critical infrastructure like transit, Madam Speaker, and highways like Highway 413 and GTA West Corridor.
We have a deferred vote.